The sun was blazing down at Fratton Park. The bars and the fan zone were packed with Pompey fans, all anticipating the start of the new season. The teams walked onto the pitch and finally the referee blew his whistle. What happened next? That will be discussed in detail by myself and the team on the Play Up podcast. Hello and welcome to everyone who's decided to lend us your ears for the next 30 or so minutes. We hope you won't be disappointed. My name is Scott Mclachlan and I'm here to host the Play Up Pod with the help of three fellow Pompey fans again. Simon, Kim and Phil are all here to cover the QPR game and look ahead to Lincoln on Saturday. How are we all? Not too dispirited after the weekend, I hope?
We go again. Yeah.
Oh, God, I hate that phrase. It's up there with low block, I'm afraid, Phil.
Yeah, and getting your shot away.
Yeah, and over the line. Any more we could think of?
I debuted XG last week, so
you did, yeah.
Red
That's
card
another
already.
One. Yeah.
Double pivot.
Double
pivot.
Does anyone do a double pivot these days? I don't know. Single
pivot's bad enough. Can we not just call them defensive midfielders?
Did we have zero pivots last week? Is that what the problem was? We forgot to put in a midfield.
I think we had divots.
Okay, let's get into the first game of the season then. That was QPR at home, and it's fair to say Pompey dominated from the start and scored a great goal with a Devlin shot from 25 yards. Pompey didn't capitalise on a couple of decent chances to make it 2 and then got hit on the counter on more than one occasion, and QPR scored 3 goals in quick succession. Pompey made a few changes second half to personnel and formation, but did not get the goal back that might have made a comeback possible. So, an opening day loss to kick off the season, which was not the start anyone wanted at PFC. Phil, you were there. I wasn't. Unfortunately, I was very ill on my sofa watching it from home, and thankfully got the Andy Moon commentary than anything else. And I'll say a couple of things from Andy Moon's commentary a bit later because he said some interesting things. But we started really well, didn't we?
It's quite a bright start, yeah. I mean, like you say, the sun was shining. Everyone was optimistic. It was the typical sort of first game of the season atmosphere. Crowd were really up for it. We started passing the ball really nicely. We were using the wings quite a lot in the first sort of 10, 15 minutes. Mara looked pretty tidy. Brooks Smith looked quite promising, but sort of his final decision making was a little bit suspect. I think, as people have pointed out, he's an 18-year-old who's come from the A-League, so he's got quite a lot to learn. It all looked like it was going to be a good afternoon, really.
I don't remember a decent chance before Devlin had his shot, so I could be wrong there. But, I mean, like you say, we dominated possession, and I don't think QPR got into our half very often. And I think it was a free kick, wasn't it? Hit to the back post, which Adams shepherded out to Devlin, 30 yards out. And I can imagine, I couldn't quite hear it on the telly, but can imagine 3 sides of the ground shouted shoot, and he did, didn't he?
Boy, he certainly did, and it was one of those. It was one of those moments where it was such a Devlin goal. Like as it came to him, I just thought he was going to score. I had absolutely no doubt that he was going to score, and he sort of took the ball. I don't know whether he either drops his shoulder slightly or Chair can't defend, because he sort of Chair seemed to go one way, and there's this big gap just opened up. He struck it. He struck it perfectly. It sort of went into the, not quite the bottom left corner, but certainly into the left-hand side of the goal. Keeper had no chance. It was a very Devlin goal, which he thoroughly enjoyed. He sort of straight to the front and patting the badge. Yes. I think it's sort of a reference to the fact there's been the speculation about him leaving over the summer. Everything looked good, and you thought, right, we're going to kick on from this. So, full of optimism at this point. Little did we know. Although I would say slightly before that, there was a sort of hint at our defensive frailties where we'd conceded a corner. The ball had come over, and Chair, who I think is going to get mentioned quite a few times today, was in acres of space, no one picking him up at all. If it wasn't for the fact that I think it may have been Shaughnessy and Devlin sort of threw themselves in front of the ball, but we could have gone one behind really early. So there was warning signs. which, as I'm sure you'll go on to say, we chose not to heed.
Well, as you mentioned, so Brooke Smith on the left with Swanson at left back. And as we'll go through, Kim, we'll see that seems to be the area where we were really, really poor on all three of the goals. I think warning signs were there, Phil. I think there was one time, I can't remember whether it was for one of the goals or earlier than that, where Adams had the ball and drove into midfield over to the left, and both Brooke Smith and Swanson went ahead of him, and Adams lost the ball, and all of a sudden we had no defence on the left-hand side at all. So, Kim, I'm going to go through all three goals with you, if I may.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I think the first sort of point I wanted to make is that what worries me about the way we conceded those goals, it's not necessarily the goals in isolation. It's more that we were comfortably the better side for half an hour. And that one initial setback, the first goal, completely changed everything. We had, I think, 54% of possession in the first half. I did look up the statistic earlier. That might be incorrect. We can look that up. But it seemed as though sort of 14, 15 bad minutes, crazy minutes, turned, as Phil said, what appeared as though it could be a really promising opening day of the season into a 3-1 defeat. And that scoreline gives the impression, without context, of QPR absolutely running riot over us, which I don't think they did. So I think it's those 15 minutes that really took us apart and badly reflected what happened for the rest of the game. So just to go through the goals, Scott, I think the first goal for me was about awareness, really. Everyone was looking at the ball rather than looking at what's happening around them. And you give Chair too much room 6 yards out, and you can't do that. You know, he's able to get the ball, as you say. He can wander into the 6-yard box without being properly picked up by a defender. And there you go.
I don't know how he had the room, to be honest, really. I mean, I looked at the goal again today, and there was 3 of our defenders in the 6-yard box and Schmidt. So how he got it, I have no idea.
Nobody picked him up.
Just toe poked it because it landed right on his foot, and Schmidt, even if Schmidt had dropped to his knees at that very second, he wasn't going to get it because it was past him.
Yeah, that equaliser was against the run of play after we dominated the first half an hour, and at that moment is exactly when we should have reset, continued what we were doing prior to their equaliser. And instead of resetting, we essentially collapsed for 15 minutes, which meant for a not particularly reflective scoreline, in my view.
Who are you blaming for the first goal?
I'm not blaming anybody. I'm blaming awareness.
Oh, okay. Fair
I'm blaming awareness.
I think a lot of people are after Schmidt's blood for that.
I know, and that was pretty much. I don't think. Look, I would be the first one to blame the keeper, and the keeper needs to do more than just stop the ball going into the net. He needs to be able to command the area and make sure that the defenders are doing their job. If you're going to blame someone, you blame the keeper for that goal. But equally, without anyone picking up Chair. And as you say, three players from memory in the 6-yard box. They have a responsibility too to get close onto Chair, stop him getting the ball at his feet, and being able to, as Simon said, toe poke the ball home past quite a hapless keeper at that moment.
I think Paul has to take some responsibility as well. I think I'd have liked to have seen Schmidt come for the initial ball and actually dominate his area. You want a keeper to take control of the situation, not watch it unfold in front of you. And I felt that the other person that was quite badly at fault, I thought, was Paul, because he was close to Ruben Burrell, which is exactly what you'd expect him to do. And then the moment the ball came got sort of dinked in towards him, he sort of stepped to one side, and Burrell got goal side, missed the ball completely. But it was that threw Schmidt, and then Chair sort of nipped in while Devlin sort of stood and watched. So for me, it was a combo. I think awareness came absolutely,
spot on for that one. What about the second goal then, Kim?
So The second goal looks quite unfortunate when you watch it because it takes a deflection, right? And Schmidt had no chance. I don't think we can blame Schmidt for the second goal, but I also don't think you can just say bad luck. Did it take two deflections?
I only saw
or two
one
deflections.
There
were two players. I think it took two deflections. There were certainly two players in front of him. It definitely came off Paul, possibly also came off Devlin, which is unfortunate. But Seisho is his name? Sato? Can't remember.
Sato.
Sato.
Was still able to get a shot away in a dangerous position. So again, who's closing him down? Why is he getting the ball in that position? If you stop him being able to take a shot at goal, then the deflection isn't an issue, is it? So it's slightly unlucky that it took two deflections. Don't blame the keeper for that one. But also, importantly, I think we've gone from controlling the game to being 2-1 down within the space of 5, 6, 7 minutes. And that's indicative of that crazy period of the game, which cost us 3 points.
I think more importantly is the really poor defending to the build-up. Again, it came from the left and went through that mid. So it went to Chair, who was in acres of space in where our six would be, protecting the back four. And Adams and Shine were not anywhere in the picture until Shine runs in right at the end. And then that was just, he was able to move it on to Sato, and like you say, Kim, he just ran at will to the edge of the box. Very unfortunate it took the deflection. I don't think the shot deserved a goal, but once someone gets to that position, you're in jeopardy, aren't you? You're in the lap of the gods with something happening, and unfortunately, Saturday was the day where everything was not going our way.
I was just going to say, I do agree with that. You know, even though it was unlucky that it took two deflections and ended up in the back of the net, don't give them the ball in a dangerous area and you don't end up in that situation.
The issue for me started, the third goal was similar, with Shaughnessy pressing quite high up, stepping in to try and intercept a pass, missing it, and finding himself completely out of position, but on the back foot. And I think you're at that point, it already puts you one down out of your back four, and it's unfortunate, but it's a bit of a naive mistake that to sort of overcommit yourself to try and cut a ball out that you're not really going to get to.
No, and so we'll go on to the third goal as well, Kim, which again was down the left. I can't remember why Swanson was in no man's land, but Mbenge got beyond him and crossed far too easily, and Chair tried not to put it in, but it went in off him anyway. So it was a bizarre goal, the way that it looped over Schmidt again.
So the third goal for me is the worst of the three. There's sort of three failures that I was able to spot in the same move. But also, what was it, 45 plus 2? I think 7 minutes of added time had just been confirmed. What have you got to do? Get to half-time without conceding another goal. Get back into the dressing room. Massinio can rearrange, do whatever he needed to do, and we'd have had a chance at 2-1 down to come back out and potentially equalise. But we concede probably the worst of the three goals. So firstly, we don't stop the cross from coming in, and then once the ball's coming into the box, everyone's watching the ball rather than picking up their individual man. Chair, who's already scored once, is allowed to just arrive and have a simple finish. So if you don't stop the cross coming in, you don't pick up the danger in the box from someone who's already scored the equaliser, and you allow him to knock the ball home with a simple finish. For me, that is more frustrating than the other two goals, because of the mistakes in the lead up to it, because of the timing of the goal, and because just get through to half time without conceding another goal. And to sort of summarise the three of them, I think the first goal was a bit of a marking error. No one was picking up the player. The third was a team error, I think, because we can outline those three errors on the way to the goal. Failure to stop the cross, failure to communicate in the box, and failure to understand the significance of that moment in the game, get to half time. And the second one, as you say, don't give the ball to the striker in that position, even if it takes deflection into goal.
Yeah, so Mousinho, I've seen him asked the same question 2 or 3 times over the week, and about West Ham and about what happened at Fratton Park on Saturday. And he said it was a mentality issue. He said we seemed to really collapse when that first goal goes in and panic and not do the things that we were doing in the previous 30 minutes that were allowing us to be more than compete in a football game. And he said that's one of his biggest tasks over the next sort of few weeks is to find out why that is. But we'll go on to the second half then, Simon. We were chasing the game. We had a number of players on the bench that were either back from injury or had literally just joined the club 24, 48 hours earlier. So it was pretty much a throw of the dice from Mousinho, wasn't it, for the second half?
Yeah, I mean, when you're 3-1 down and struggling to chase back into the game, whatever was happening in the first half obviously wasn't working, certainly the latter half of the first half, then you've got to try something different. We had the new guy from Chelsea, Kavuma-McQueen, came on for Brooke Smith at half-time, and I thought made an excellent fist of it. He was a bright moment in an afternoon of not so bright moments.
Yeah,
as his first attempt at senior football, I think he made a very, very good showing of it, and that's definitely promising for moving forward into the rest of this season. Later on, about 10 minutes into the second half, we had the swap Murphy coming on for Kamara. Kamara, I think, would probably admit himself that it wasn't the greatest second debut in the world. He contributed. He did put some crosses in. That's again.
Well, he had that terrific chance, didn't he, when the goalkeeper passed to him on the floor?
It was one of those ones where you think if he'd taken it, 4 or 5 yards further forward, he would have given himself a better chance. But I think he snatched at it. And the keeper got a hand to it. It actually rebounded out to McQueen on the left-hand side there. So that was before Murphy came on. And McQueen had another pop at it and unfortunately shot straight at the goalie. A little bit later on, we had QPR again, had another chance with Chair. He came down the QPR left-hand side, and I think Devlin had been pulled inside for some reason. So he seemed to have all the space in the world to have a shot at goal. It was one of those games. QPR knew that they basically got it in the bag, so they weren't trying too hard, but they were defending deep and defending in numbers, so difficult to break that sort of thing down. We had one where McQueen was now playing on the right-hand side, got a cross in, and Bishop was right in the middle of the penalty area, but there was a tiny little deflection, which I think just put it just out of his reach. I think if it hadn't deflected, he would have managed to get that in the back of the net.
I think it was Bishop who collected the ball, didn't he, and actually held the ball up and laid it off to McQueen, and then made a dart into the box, didn't he? But exactly. Like I say, he couldn't quite find his feet and tap it in. But McQueen did exactly the right thing. He put it across the box quite dangerously. Yeah. Again, our luck wasn't in. No one could get a touch on it, and it went wide for a goal kick.
In the last 10 minutes, it was a lot of Pompey with the ball, putting crosses in from various sides and directions. I think perhaps the closest one or the most interesting one to talk about is our new gorgeous striker. He attempted a bicycle kick, but he was being pulled down at the time when he was trying to get his legs in the air.
Well, he got contact, didn't he? He got contact on the ball as it came over his shoulder, and it was actually a good, smart save by the keeper on the line. Again, another one where, a bit more luck, we might have actually got a goal back, and then those last few minutes might have been a bit more, close and interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Murphy put one across the 6-yard box, which everybody just stood and watched go.
Yeah, I thought Moretzi's waved a leg at it, but didn't make any contact. but yeah, I mean that just sums up the day, really. Like you say, Simon, we were creating chances, but all the luck that QPR had, we'd obviously played poorly and put them in the right positions, but deflected goals and bundling it over the keeper or a defence not reacting. None of that was falling our way either. So you mentioned Kavuma-McQueen coming on and making a good impact. 17, senior debut. I know Phil was mentioning his lack of tracking back, but I think we can forgive him that a little bit as soon as it was his.
I think I might have been a bit harsh on him.
I might have been a bit harsh. We were all emotional after the game, Phil, so we'll let you off on that one. But it was really good to see Murphy back, wasn't it? He not only was he putting crosses in, but he was standing his man up and going past him with consummate ease, which was brilliant to watch. Really looking forward to seeing if it can get another 45 minutes at least at Lincoln on Saturday. As you said, Kim, I think if we'd have managed to shut up shop at maybe 2-1, we might have given ourselves much more of a chance of getting back into it second half. But 2 goals down is just too much for anyone to without any real options off the bench. Which we have good players, but they're players that haven't played for us before or played very little.
It's interesting what you said after I talked about the goals, Scott, about the mentality issue, and particularly around Mousinho picking that up as being an issue. And I sort of wonder, as I've said, I didn't watch the second half. I had to go for a lie down in a dark room. I was so frustrated by what happened in the first half.
Very honest of you to admit that.
Always honest. Probably a flaw in my character rather than a good thing. But who's the leader on the pitch? Who's there when we go 2-1 down, who's able to just say, as you say, shut up shop, hold it together, lads, get through to the end of the game? Did we have that on Saturday? I don't think we did.
No.
I think that's a role that the Pack would normally
I was going to say, are we missing Marlon Pack? And when's he back from his operation?
Because tell me how many games we've won as Colby Bishop with captain?
Yeah, well, I didn't
how many
want
games
to lay
have we actually won? I couldn't
we
find.
We can look it up.
Well, you can't. I've tried looking in various sources. I've tried various AI chatbots and various others, and none of them can give me a straight answer. Basically, they're saying he's won none as captain because they're only counting this season. So that's not very helpful. We all know that.
The thing is, it's not just the thing is the captain. Whoever's the captain, it's a bit of a sort of an old tradition, because you're supposed to have a leadership team within a football club, and you're supposed to have leaders all over the pitch. I think, and I'll probably come on to having a good moan about defence later, but I think what Kim says is absolutely right. You can start
now if you'd like, Phil. You're more than welcome to start now.
Well, there's none of the back four are talkers. They're not communicators. They're very quiet. You can never hear them at the back. And I think that's where it stems from. No one organises the defence. You need to have a strong presence at the back who's going to dictate things. And you always want the defence to be centred around an experienced leader. Shocknessy's a very quiet person. Met him a couple of times. He's very softly spoken. He's not a shouter. You can't imagine him bawling someone out. I think Regan Paul's fairly quiet, and you want one of those two to really take hold of the back four. But yeah, as you say, I was not happy at all, as I don't think any of us were, with the defence and defensive midfield unit. Worryingly, Ogilvie aside, that was our first choice back five. You would say at the beginning of the season, who would you put in goal? Well, you put Schmidt in goal because he's earned the right to keep that place. Who's our two most experienced defenders that play well together? Paul and Shocknessy. We can't play Ogilvie at left back. We don't have Farrell's never fit. We're going to have to stick with Swanson, and he's had his games where he's done okay there. Devlin is our first choice right back. But I don't think any of those four covered themselves in glory at all. Paul and Shocknessy, I thought positionally they were terrible. I thought the decision, the third goal, which I agree with Kim, it was the worst of the three to concede. Shocknessy's out of position because he, as I said earlier, he's failed to cut out a pass. The ball's got down to the byline because Swanson hasn't tracked his man. As the ball comes across the box, Paul's got two choices. Either sticks with Chair because Chair is his man and he's close to Chair, or he gets in there, intercepts that ball and sticks it in the sands. He didn't really do either. He moved away from Chair, went towards the ball sort of half-heartedly. The ball went across him, and as we said, Chair won't get an easier goal in his life.
Well, he did the first time.
Yes, very good point. Very good point.
He'd already got it. He wanted to try and top it.
But also on exactly what you've just said there. Sorry to cut across you, Phil. No. But why are we why are we in that position on 45 plus 2 minutes? Why aren't we playing a different game and not allowing them to get in those positions? And it goes back to that leader on the pitch.
Yeah.
Who is doing that? Who is doing that? I didn't want to blame Colby Bishop, and you're right in that it's not just the role of the captain. There's a leadership team. The defence need to be communicating and making clear how we're going to get through to the end of the game more unscathed than we ended up being. I don't know how you change the mentality. I don't know how you coach a team through that.
Well, for Mousinho, it must be doubly frustrating because he was a centre-back, he was a dominant centre-back, and he was a leader on the pitch. So I find it surprising that he's named the centre forward as his captain. But as I say, it's about having a leader. It's about having a leader at the back. And I saw him play half a game in Alan Knight's charity game, and he was the voice on the pitch that you could hear. And this was a charity match, and Mousinho was playing in defence, and he was bossing the defence around. So I do find it incredible that we don't have anyone doing that. Then you sort of look at the centre backs, because that's where you expect the leadership to come, because they've got the best view of sort of play unfolding, or the goalkeeper in some cases. I thought on Saturday, Swanson looked like what he is, which is a right back being asked to play left back. And I think the problem is when Swanson plays at left back and has a good game, he looks good. When he doesn't do a very good job, he looks terrible. It's partly on Swanson. As you said, the third goal, just to let his man go. But as a manager, you've got to say, I can't keep playing. I can't play a player out of position, a key position like that. And I realise Mousinho had very little choice, and I think it's a real blow that Ogilvy's going to be out for 5 more weeks. And it just makes recruiting a left back the
priority.
Probably that and central midfielder an absolute priority. When Devlin doesn't look good, when Devlin has a poor game, Devlin looks like a central midfielder playing at right back, and that was evident on Saturday. I think Simon picked up on a point in the second half where, for reasons best known to himself, Devlin just wanders into midfield, possibly to cover for Adams, but he wanders into midfield. The right-sided midfielder isn't anywhere to be found, and there's this huge gap on QPR's left. He's very much a Pompey player, and he's improved dramatically as a right-back. But I'd love to see how much he'd have improved as a central midfielder, rather than someone who's been kind of forced into this right-back position. On some games, he plays absolutely fantastically, don't get me wrong. But the games that he doesn't play well, and they're the ones where he drifts into midfield, he does leave things exposed. And you even look at his goals. His goals fantastic. His goals come from him popping up in the middle, not coming down the wing. They generally come from him drifting into the centre, picking up and shooting from distance. I think it's a shame that we're never going to see him fulfil his potential as a midfielder. And I wonder whether, as a midfielder, he'd be better than he is as a right back.
Well, you never know. It could be that's in his future, and he's found a role which suits him at the moment, and that's where Mousinho wants to play him. He's only 21, so he's got another 10, 15 years to play, and could move into midfield. But
But I do think it's telling that and this is, it sounds like I'm digging out Terry Devlin, and I'm not. But I think it's quite telling that Wrexham were obviously very, very interested in him, and when push came to shove, they went and invested in an established right back from Crystal Palace rather than Devlin.
Yeah, I love Devlin as well. I think he's a great player. As you say, Phil, he's a Pompey player. He's got the characteristics of someone that is a Pompey player and has the ability to be a Pompey legend. If he does a few more of those 30-yard screamers, and he will go down into folklore. I think something that's really interesting to me is around contemporaneous on-pitch accountability, right? And I don't see it.
That's a long word for this.
That's a long word. That's a long word. Whoa. But I don't see a lot of that in this current team. I wouldn't know what it was. Well, what I'm talking about is in the moment accountability on the field when we concede like the third goal that QPR scored. And I say that because I listen a lot to the Overlap podcast. Is it Overlap 6 Football with Gary Neville, Roy Keane, etc. Gary, I'm available if you ever want an additional guest, FYI.
Well, I'm sure he listens to this every week. So.
He will do. But they were having a really interesting conversation, I can't recall when it was, but between Neville and Roy Keane about that sort of how Keane would hold the defence to account when they were at Man United when a ridiculous goal was conceded. And you can imagine Keane getting right up in your face on the pitch, in the tunnel and in the dressing room at half-time, holding the defender to account on the pitch. Why didn't you pick up your man? He obviously said it in a much more animated way than I just did. But I don't see that at Pompey. And does that go back to the lack of the leader on the pitch? Where's that character that is going to call you out in front of the fat end? What did you do? Didn't pick your man up.
Looking at the lineup, the starting lineup from Saturday, we've already talked in depth about the defence. The next line we've got Adams and Shine, whichever we're using this week, and then Kamara, Segicic, Luke Brooks-Smith and Bishop. I'm fully in agreement. I don't think a centre-forward should be captain. It needs to be a position which is further back. But then you've got Kamara, just started with us again, quiet lad. Segicic, young, doesn't have much authority within the squad at the moment, I would say. Luke Brooks-Smith, brand new to the team. And Shine, again, new. Probably English is not his strongest language. And then we've got Adams. Now, Adams, to me, is the one on the starting pitch there who has the characteristics to be the leader. And much though I loved his performances last year, and he came out as, the commander or whatever the nickname was.
General.
General. The general.
Yeah, he's not being a general this season so far from what I've seen. I think he is the experience outside of the defence, and I would love to see him step up a bit more and be that leader.
That's a great shout.
I was a bit embarrassed by Adams' performance on Saturday. I think if he'd spent more time doing his job and less time waving his arms around, throwing himself theatrically to the floor when things didn't get his own way, like a toddler, and all those general histrionics, I thought we'd have been better off. I mean, again, I really like it. I loved him last season, but I thought his performance on Saturday was and it was terrible for a number of reasons. You can forgive someone having a bad game, but unfortunately, Reece isn't here to defend himself. Reece and I had a conversation about whether we thought Shine and Adams could make a central defensive partnership. I said no. Reece said yes, and he said, you just got to know one of you's got to go, one of you's got to sit, which in theory is absolutely correct. That did not happen on Saturday at all. Adam, as the senior partner in that relationship, is the one that's got to take control of the situation. He just went wandering around. I'm amazed Shine was on the pitch for the full 90 minutes because he was doing the work of two men, running his arse off, chasing shadows a lot of the time, because Adams had just sort of, I don't know, was just wandering up the pitch, wandering back. I just found that incredibly frustrating. I'd be surprised if we see the two of them starting together on Saturday.
Well, if we do, he is now forever going to be called General Histrionics. That's going to be his name for the rest of the season now. Not the General Histrionics. Simon, so we covered the fact that we've got not much at left back and not much in the middle of the park. They must be the priorities for shopping next week, surely.
Yes, I think the left back's already been mentioned. Chambers, is it, from Liverpool? Keeps, as you said, Phil, the blow of Ogilvy going back in for more surgery is not going to help. Other than that, I don't know. It's we seem to be okay up front now, which was always the complaint last season, that we needed another challenger to Bishop's position. Do we need another option for Segicic? Is that where we need to be?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think. I mean, we none of us agree, but Adams is the backup 10, isn't he, to Segicic, according to Mousinho. I mean, none of us can fathom how that works, but that's where it is. I think it's a lot further back that we need the help. We mentioned Marlon Pack earlier. If we are relying on Pack, who's 35 and allegedly in his last senior pro year, then we're in a bit of trouble, aren't we? Because he's not going to play 46 games. I mean, he's missed the first one already. So what we definitely need to recruit in that position, and it can't be a teenager. It's got to be someone of experience. It's got to be someone of championship experience as well, because otherwise we will just end up with the headless chickens that we saw on Saturday. So yeah, for me, it's got to be left back, and it's got to be a number 6 that's prioritising. I'm sure Machine prioritising them, because obviously we had Cisse almost on the plane and until Brexit intervened. So it's really annoying, because one thing that Andy Moon said on his commentary is that statistically Pompey have got the easiest six matches of all of the teams. So if we come out of that initial 6 matches with only 4 or 5 points, we're really, really behind the curve compared to the rest of the rest of the teams in the season. You know, we would be expecting to win 2 or 3 of these games and maybe get a draw or 2. But we're third from bottom from the table already. It's really frustrating. Hopefully against Lincoln we can turn it around and get 3 points up there on Saturday.
Is this where Reece would normally say it doesn't matter until the end of the season, or whatever?
Absolutely, yeah.
Usual phrase is.
It is a marker of every few pods that he'll say that, you know, purely because when we all do our bits over a really bad performance, Reece will hove into view and just give us that it's all right, we'll be all right at the end of the season, we hope.
And historically, we are the architects of great escapes. We do that very regularly. But let's hope we're not in that territory again at the end of this season.
And Sheffield United are already looking at a 12-point deduction, so that's good news already. We just need a couple more of those, a couple more teams to get into trouble. Yeah, and we're it's another free hit this season. Thanks, guys. So I really, really, really did cover that QPR game very, very well, I think. So we're on to Lincoln away on Saturday, a 12:30 kickoff up at Sincil Bank. I'm driving up. I'll be leaving Chichester very, very early in the morning to get there for a lunchtime kickoff. Again, I said this the last couple of times, it's not a team we've played very often, purely because we've been at the top end of the table, and Lincoln have been non-league for quite a bit of their history. We've played 28 times. Pompey have massively had the better of it. 15 wins, 7 draws and 6 losses. And obviously the last time we played was 3 years ago in League One. We had a 2-1 win at Fratton Park with goals from Paddy Lane and Regan Poole, and then away at Sincil Bank we had a 2-0 away win, goals with again from Paddy Lane and Miles Pert Harris, and it's a game that Riley Towler played for us as centre-back. Some people called it a tough loss against Borough, but looking at the stats and looking at some of the highlights, they scored a goal on the counter-attack and played with the back 5 for most of the game. Towler started the game on the left side of a 3 centre defenders. They were largely outplayed, but like I say, they took a lead from a long ball counter-attack where their left back slammed it in after a good cross across the box, but it was all Borough, and even though it took them, until the latter half of the second half to win the game, it would have been a big shock if Borough hadn't come away with 3 points. So bearing in mind that we've just said, Simon, or do you think we will line up any differently in regards striker and goalkeeper in particular? Do you think we'll see starts for some new signings there?
I don't see us changing keeper. And from what Machino was saying a couple of weeks ago, then Moreski is not able to do full 90 minutes. So I would expect to see. I'd expect to see Bishop start.
Okay.
And maybe.
Captain.
Well, who else but? Let's have a look at the substitutions that we had on Saturday. So we had Kavuma-McQueen came on at half-time. We had Murphy, Milovanovic, Benji Arthur and Odin Bailey come on. So I don't think any of those are going to be starters. I think he'll save Murphy for the second half in a similar way that he did against QPR. So, yeah, I can't see any great changes to what we started with on Saturday, to be honest, which is not great.
I can see changes at the back. I wouldn't be surprised if Arthur starts. I think I get the feeling he might drop one of the 2 centre-backs. And on Saturday's performance, I don't think that Benji Arthur's coming to sit on the bench. The story is that Celtic got a £6 million bid turned down for him. A player that's worth more than £6 million isn't going to be coming on for 10 minutes at the end of the games. I wouldn't necessarily be surprised to see Luke LaRue playing in midfield. I
thought Mousinho said that Pack was... I mean, the couple of times he's asked about Pack, he quickly said he was available. And I
He
think,
is available.
If he's available, he plays.
Yeah,
I
100%.
think we'll see him put in with Shane Adams on the bench after his poor performance.
I saw him reversing his car into his drive on my way home to the podcast, so I can confirm that he's
the legs are working.
The legs are working well. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So on Saturday, the two defenders that we had on the bench were Arthur and Dia.
Right.
I think that says it all. That's his pecking order. And he's already said that Matthews we're looking to loan him out to League One. I think that tells you all about where we are with Matthews and Knight.
Go on, Kim.
Scott, I think you said you did say a few moments ago that we've got one of the easiest of the first 6 games of the season.
Specifically said statistically.
Well, I think Saturday is going to be a massive test for us because obviously off the back of Saturday's defeat, Lincoln are newly promoted. They haven't played in the Championship for 5-6 decades or something. First home game in the Championship for them, like I said, in several decades. And if Pompey aren't able to deal with momentum change, as we saw they were unable to last weekend, how are they going to deal with a newly promoted team, crowd behind them, absolutely up for it? It does have the potential to be a bit of a catastrophe for us.
Yes,
if we're unable to really solidify at the back, and as we've said, change something in the middle of the park and protect the back four, who will probably be up against a very buoyant attack.
They definitely tried to. Sorry, Phil. They definitely tried to get a point at Borough. So they started with a back 5, 3 in midfield, 2 up front. And from what I saw of the extended highlights, they weren't playing it through midfield. So they definitely tried to hit Borough on the break. And once they'd gone ahead, their ambition was purely just to try and keep the ball out of the net. Whether they do the same on Saturday, whether they line up with a more progressive team and lineup, I don't know. Like I say, their ambition on Saturday looked like we're up against one of the promotion chasers. Let's see if we can nick a point. Whereas at home to Pompey, you would expect them to have a go. So it will be interesting, and I would want them to have a go because then we could hit them on the counter attack. Don't you agree, Phil?
That's what I'd want. Whether that's going to happen, if I was the Lincoln manager. I'd look at the way Pompey played in the first 15 minutes. I'd say, go out there, soak up that pressure, and then do exactly what we did to Borough, hit them on the break. If they do the same as they do to Borough, the class showed through in the end. With Pompey, if we were to go 1-0 down, as Kim says, this is the gut check for us. That would be my fear, that they absorb some pressure, hit us on the break, and we run out of ideas.
Does feel like first goal wins it.
Yeah, exactly that, Simon. I was going to say, it's imperative that we score the first goal and then don't concede the second.
Yes, yeah, that's the best way to do it. Simon, so how do you think we will go? Do you think we will win?
I'm going to go all optimistic and go for a 2-1 win.
Okay. Are we going to concede first, though? That's the crucial thing.
No, we'll be 2-0 up and cruising, and then in the last couple of minutes they'll scramble one. It'll be okay.
It'll be okay. It's all going to be okay. Phil, what about you?
I think it's going to be a slightly uninspiring draw.
Which we would be happy with or not?
No, we would not.
Not in our position.
Without showing any disrespect to Lincoln, and I'm obviously now going to show them disrespect. If we've got ambitions, we should be going and beating teams like Lincoln, which will come up and obviously bite me right on the arse.
Maybe. Kim?
I think it's going to be a draw as well. I think we should win it. Phil said he wouldn't be happy with a draw. We should win because they are a newly promoted team. However, I will be glad to take a draw.
Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? We need to get off the mark, so a draw wouldn't be an absolute disaster. But I think, as you said, Phil, this is one of our doubles we'd be looking at, home and away, beating Lincoln. 6 points in the bag, but it's a tiny little ground. It's a new ground. There will be over 1,000 Pompey fans there, including myself. But I think it'll be quite nervy. Personally, we were talking about the lineup. I think he's going to drop Bialica in. I think he'll start him. I think Smith will be dropped by Mousinho. I think that's a big call, but I think after that performance where he utterly didn't dominate his box at all in the first half on Saturday, I think if Bialica has come in I think you said it, Phil. He's come into play, isn't he? He's come in to be the number one. If
Challenger,
doesn't buck up his ideas, and he certainly didn't buck up his ideas on Saturday. So I think he might. If he's not going to make any other changes, I think he'll change the goalkeeper.
That's a big call. It's a big call
It's
to
a
make
very
if he
big
does
call.
that. If you drop a keeper after one game of the season and it doesn't work out with the second one, you've then got to bring him back in, or we're going to be faced with having Ben Killick in goal for a stretch of games. It's such a weird position, because you could take a striker out for one game and bring him in for the next one. You can't really do that with a keeper. So he's got to nail his colours to the mast, and you've got to be prepared for the fallout. And I think we saw that happen with Will Norris, and he dropped Will Norris, and that was it. Will Norris's career at Portsmouth was finished. Let's
see what happens on Saturday. It's going to be exciting, I think. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, same as you, Simon. I'm going to be positive. I think we saw enough out of the second half to see that we can create chances. I think the problem is, for me, is the left-hand side. What does he do? I think he might start with Kavuma-McQueen and then Murphy second half. I think McQueen had so much more about him than Brooks Smith did, and he's had another week to work with him on the training ground. So hopefully he will be able to back Swanson up a bit more and stretch the Lincoln defence a bit more than Brooks Smith did, who unfortunately didn't make any impact on Saturday. So thanks very much, guys. We were going to only do half an hour, but we've done an hour. We obviously were all very upset about Saturday and had a lot to unpack about it. So thanks very much, guys, for joining me. We'll be back again in another week where we will be discussing the Lincoln game and hopefully a win, and then looking forward to Bristol City away, where we've not recently had much luck. So we will see what happens. Thanks, guys. Play Up Pompey.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, everyone.
Weekend.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.